Hello, Birmingham.
Hello. When I say I've never been so relieved to see an audience before, I'm not lying. We were like, nobody's coming. And you know what? We totally get it because it's insurance and it's such a bland subject. But I'm sure we all agree we need it, don't we? So we're here from Kingsbridge just to talk about why recruitment agencies need insurance. You might have come across our sister company, KCI, Kingsbridge Contractors. So they have the IR35 tool and they do the contractors insurance, but we actually look at the recruitment company insurance. And we so get that insurance is bland. We totally understand it. We fall asleep when we have to sort our own insurances out. So, but I think the thing is, the bread and butter to you guys is recruitment, to us is insurance. And when I say we love it, the nerds we are, we do love it. So we love your questions. I think the recruiter insurance is just exciting. So we're just here to help. So we're also on stand D32.
Correct.
So if any of you want to chat after, just come along to stand D32. So I'll just introduce us. My name's Rebecca Mustoe. I'm going to give my age away now. I've been in insurance for 30 years, so it can't be all bad. I wanted to be a stand-up comedian before, but realised I'm actually rubbish at it. So I thought, what else can you do but serious? You can't get any more serious than insurance. So this is James Morris, our claims manager. This is my manager, so please, good feedback all around, please. Chloe Hawley. So I'll pass you over to them, and they'll just discuss about why you need insurance and what can go wrong. So I think we'll all agree, when we're buying a washing machine, we can press the buttons and see it all, but with insurance, you haven't got anything you can actually visualise. So James will bring that to life for you. I'll pass you over to you first.
Yeah, thanks, Becky. That's brilliant. Excellent. So yes, we are Kingsbridge Recruitment Insurance, and I think it's quite an important topic to talk about why you need the insurance and what can go wrong, rather than keeping it boring as insurance normally is. We'll look at the more exciting claims examples. Yes, so just to give you a little bit of background before we introduce the legendary James Morris, which I'll go into in a second. Recruitment agencies can be very simple. They can be very complex. It chops and changes, and it's really important to know that you've got the adequate covers in place. But a lot of people buy without really understanding how that affects you. So that is quite literally what we're here to talk about today. I will start with going through something called professional indemnity insurance, which, in all honesty, is your main exposure as a recruiter. So as a recruitment agency, you could be doing permanent placements, you could be doing temporary contract, you could even be branching into consultancy. And throughout that entire process, you could easily make a mistake. Any kind of error, omission, or negligence in the way that you're engaging with your clients, misadvising the suitability of a candidate, issuing the wrong CV, you can be held accountable. So James Morris over here has worked with us for 20 years. He is more than an expert in our field. And we thought it might be quite useful, as he is our claims manager and deals with front hand on behalf of our insurers, your claim. He will fight for you, he will defend, he will advise, for him to give you some examples. What could possibly go wrong, James?
Hi there. Thank you very much, Chloe, for the kind words. Yes, 20 years. I used to have hair like Chloe's when I first started. This is what claims have done to me. So I do the exciting part. I actually get involved with the claims. We're not a post box option. We actually get into the nitty-gritty of the claims. We help our policyholders. We advise them how the claims process is going to work. We will help and work with them with regard to redirection where we can. And I'm going to go through a few examples of claims that we have that I've actually dealt with over the years. Now, professional indemnity, as Chloe's just touched on there, simple one. People are on your books, onboarding. So onboarding, you'll be looking at their right to work. If you're placing someone within the IT industry, for instance, you'll be making sure they've got the relevant qualifications. You're checking the references. An example of something going wrong there is you go and supply a contractor with your end client, and lo and behold, they haven't got the experience that's required. The end client then gets a £50,000 £50,000 claim because they have lost that contract. They're going to bring that against you, saying, "Hold on, you've gone and given us this contract, not fit for purpose at all." So we would guide you through that process. In that particular instance, if you haven't done your checks right, the claim unfortunately is going to stick with you. If you have done your checks right, then the claim will look to redirect accordingly. But that's just an example of professional indemnity that can happen, and I have had claims like this before in my career at Kingsbridge.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, James. And I think it's really important when talking about what could possibly go wrong to think about your own compliance processes and the way you're engaging with your clients. So by that, quite simply, are you supplying via your own terms of business, or are you signing your client's terms of business? If you're signing your client's terms of business, have you vetted those to see what you're actually signing? Does it contain any contractual liability? If the work that you're supplying is being negligent at the site, are you being held accountable for that? There's lots of stuff around, obviously, I'm sure from the recruitment industry, supervision, direction and control. 9 times out of 10, it's not going to be an issue. They're either responsible for themselves or they'll be under the SDC of the client. So realistically, if a claim were to come to light, that's your out. It'll be redirected, and that's what James would defend on your behalf. Sometimes with end client terms, though, they can add in a clause making you contractually liable, and your basic insurance would not necessarily extend to that. So it is important to speak to a specialist just to make sure it is adequate. So moving on, employer's liability. This is your typical legal requirement within the package. You have a legal responsibility as an employer, and that can extend to health and safety procedures in your workplace. But it could go as deep as if you've got contractors going out into blue collar type roles, even offshore into the oil and gas industry. Again, what does that liability clause stipulate in the end client terms? Are you responsible for their personal injury? But I will leave James again to give an example of how employer's liability could matter to you.
Okay, I'm going to give you 2 examples here. The top one, employee working from home had a back injury. Obviously, post-COVID, there's a lot more hybrid roles now. Some people work at home some days, they may work in an office, they may go to meetings and so forth. This particular first claim, employee working from home had a back injury. Employee actually worked at home for 3 years using their dining room table. So you're using a laptop. What do you use? I'll put this out to the floor. When you're using a laptop, what do? You look down. You're using a laptop 7-8 hours a day. What's going to happen? It's going to hurt your shoulders, your neck. This particular individual raised this issue several times with their employee. They did nothing. They never even did a display screen equipment check with them. So they didn't give them a riser for their laptop. They didn't give them a screen. Didn't even give them a keyboard. That was a very, very hefty claim. This individual had 2 or 3 operations on their neck, all because compliance and the HR didn't check their employees working at home. This will apply to all of you. Even if you work at home yourself, make sure you've got a safe environment. You've got a correct type of chair to sit on. If you're sat there 7-8 hours a day on a wooden chair, that is very, very uncomfortable. Not good for your back. The second one, contractor sustained leg fracture. Chloe did actually mention with regards to contractual chain. Now, you've supplied a contractor to the end client. What we would like to see, and it doesn't always have to be this way, is that the supervision director control would rest with that end hirer for that contractor in the workplace. You've not set foot in their workplace. You haven't done a risk assessment. If they're fallen over and they've fractured their leg, we would always be looking at your contractual chain to see where potentially there could be a claim against you, or we could redirect the claim if at all possible. With this particular one, contractor sustained a leg fracture, is working for one of the big supermarkets, but supervision director control was at the end party. Solicitors, I shouldn't really use the phrase, ambulance chasers to some extent will always go to you in the first instance because you are de facto their employee, but by your contract we can look to redirect the claim And that's what we'll do each time for you and work with you to make sure we can redirect it. However, there can be substantial defence costs. Some solicitors will just sue everyone within that contractual chain. You can be looking at £10,000-20,000 worth of defence costs very, very easy. That's how solicitors make the money. So next
Yeah,
slide.
absolutely. Thank you, James. The next, all of these covers, by the way, we tend to do as a core, just so you don't need to think about them. They're automatically there. The next one, if I'm being completely honest, as a recruitment agency, not necessarily a concern for you. Public liability is third-party property damage, third-party bodily injury. Yes, if you've got clients or prospects coming into your offices, there is a concern there. What you also need to consider under the public liability, again, and I'll keep going over it, is the contractual chain that you have entered into with the supply of your personnel. What type of workers what are you placing? What sectors are they working in? Particularly blue-collar roles, construction. And with public liability, supervision, direction and control should be present. It should be as easy as defending it and redirecting it. Again, there is a chance of that contractual liability. So to emphasise the importance of having either some outsourced legal or internal compliance process to be vetting these terms, it can really help you out. So public liability, again, I think James might have a good example for you here.
Have a few here. So contractor supplied to an end client, drilled through a water pipe, causing extensive damage to a client's customer's premises. By the contractual chain, our actual client accepted the actions of that actual contractor. So they were accepting the end client's terms. So the policy would respond. Now, they obviously had this relationship with this particular end client, and they agreed that. Now, because they agreed the end client's terms, premiums and the exposure is obviously going to be higher because there's more chance of a claim sitting with you than with an end party. Now, the second one, contractor spilled to drink over a customer's laptop. Happens all the time. People have a drink near the laptop. Same again, we'll be looking at the contractual chain. If that contractor was subject to supervision, direct control by the end client, the hirer, we would look to redirect it. In that particular instance, we did. End hirer wasn't very happy. They're saying, your contractor caused the damage. But same again, we go back to that contractual chain. We can't stress the importance of the contract chain. It may well be a large client and say, well, do you know what? We supply 50 contractors. We'll accept their terms. Your exposure becomes a lot larger. Do you want to be exposing yourself to something happening at that end client? We can accept it. We can endorse a policy. However, ideally, you want to keep pushing that back. You don't want the claims on your records. But some of the claims do stick, and they stick for a reason. We talk that through with you. We don't just accept automatically you are responsible. We explain in layman terms why the policy is to respond, what has gone wrong.
Yeah, excellent. Again, thank you, James. Just to flick through some of these last bits, I'm just bring them up on the screen, sorry. It's also important to understand your own business. What are your other exposures? And again, what could go wrong in that department? So we've just listed a couple. We could go on and on and on, but we do not want to bore you half to death with insurance talk. So we've just picked a couple that we'd like to highlight, and then it'd be great to open the floor just to see if anybody has got any questions. But it can go on. You've got things to think about, like, are you working from home? If you are, have you got your laptops? Do you need to consider material damage cover? Have you got an office? Are you leasing a premises? You know, what's your operation? What's your function? Important to think about, you know, things aside from your liability, your own material damage as well, whether that's buildings, contents, laptops, as I mentioned. And again, James, if you wanted to, you could give an example.
Absolutely.
What that looks like.
Content is a common one. Not so common these days. A lot of people do actually take the laptops home. Some companies do insist on the laptops remaining within the premise. People will lease the premises. People can get access. So there's been forced violent entry into the premises and have stolen, in this particular instance, was 19 laptops. So someone got a really good payday and obviously sold it on the black market. Could well be for organised crime, whatever it could be. So yes, so your contents are very important. As Chloe said, whether that's a content that you carry around with you as part of your work, whether that be mobile phone, laptop, film equipment, whatever it may be. Employment practices liability. I recently had an ACAS claim, and because of the contractual chain, there was 5 or 6 companies involved with this. Our client literally just passed over the information. You haven't got the job. That's all they did. I've got £14,000 worth of defence costs because the individual was suing every single company in that chain. So something as simple as that, you were just passing. You initially got the job. They did the background checks on this individual, part of a political organisation. The government department did not want him and decided that they don't want to take him on. That was their choice, but the recruiter had to actually be the bearer of bad news. So they were sued, shouldn't have been, but until we managed to extract them from the claim, we were looking at about £12,000–14,000 worth of defence costs. So that's quite an important area as well, employment practices liability. That can actually turn around as well, where a claim does actually sit with you. You will have the legal defence, and the policy will be able to look to respond to act for, say, an employee grievance, something along those lines, or tribunal. They do happen all the time. We're in a very much so litigation. We'll blame someone. Something's gone wrong. I've got to blame someone. I've got to get some money. This is why EPL, as it's known as in the industry, very important cover to take out. But we do come across these claims.
Can I just, if I can just tell on the end of James there, I think what a lot of people, directors of companies, don't realise as well, that they can be sued in their own personal capacity as decisions they made as a director. So there are directors and officers liability cover to think about also for sort of wrongdoing and things like that. So again, any sort of risks that we're presented with, we'll actually help you review your company, the setup, and the risks you're exposed to, and go for everything like that. So hopefully, like we said, it's such a boring subject, but if we can just bring it to life for everybody to realise the risks involved. And again, we're on stand D32 if anybody's got any concerns they wish to discuss. So just thanks for listening. It's a boring subject and we appreciate the audience. So thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you both.